The U.S. economy just slammed into reverse. Well, at least the labor market did, shedding 23,000 jobs last month and dropping a political landmine just 88 days before the midterms. Today's unemployment rate fell to 4.1%, which is great on its face, but only because more Americans stopped looking for work. We're also learning the job market was much weaker than we thought in May and June. It's an economic 1-2 punch. Jobs are disappearing, at least last month, while prices remain high. A dangerous mix, reviving at least a little bit of fear about one of the most dreaded words in economics and politics, stagflation.
It came down to Cassidy because Republicans Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins said they'd oppose Blanche, leaving the Louisiana senator as the actual make or break here. Murkowski argued today she doesn't trust that Blanche will push back on the president, among other things. Cassidy seemed to suggest that it might not matter much, that in the end, Blanche is only there to advise Trump, but that Trump makes the final call no matter who his attorney general is. He doesn't always take advice, Cassidy said. Cassidy also argued that the vote itself was somewhat inconsequential, since Blanche could remain as acting AG even without confirmation. With the future of the Justice Department on the line, I want to bring in Connecticut Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal. He's a member of the Judiciary Committee. Senator, what is your reaction to what you just heard from Bill Cassidy today, the reasoning that he laid out, and basically how he got to yes, even an unenthusiastic one?
Deep disappointment, because this vote is so cravenly wrong for the country, as well as ultimately, I think, for Senator Cassidy. I think it will go down as one of his graver mistakes, and not surprising because I have predicted all along that Republicans would support Blanche in spite of his being unfit and his being more loyal to the president than to the Constitution or to the country. And so I am really disappointed, but not surprised.
Yes, for those of you who want to do your research on this, Section 215A of the Immigration and Nationality Act gives the president this authority. 215A of the Immigration and Nationality Act. Very rarely used, probably one of the strongest laws in the entire federal code, gives him this power. And that's not the only, but it's the main statutory authority that's being used in this order. So birth tourism is by definition a fraud on the American system, on the American taxpayer, on the American visa. If you're coming here, and again, your stated purpose is that you're a tourist, then by definition, you are here to come for a few weeks, look at what we have, engage in commerce, and leave. So if you're telling a consular officer you're here as a tourist, but your true purpose and intent is to go to a baby mill, give birth, and try to mint an American citizen while you're here, then you're committing a fraud against the American government. And by definition, that visa can and should and will be now denied. To have a child, to make that child an automatic citizen, leave our country, and then have a U.S. citizen child, it gives them access under this broken system to welfare benefits, ultimately to the voting booth, and all the other rights and privileges that belong solely to Americans. So that practice of birth tourism is, as of the signing of this order, hereby banned.
Or saying that this wouldn't run afoul of the Supreme Court's decision, but is that actually the case here? Where's the overlap?
I'm not sure, Ali, that their view of this is going to be one shared by the Supreme Court. There are two different orders, as you noted. Let's start with the one that is perhaps more likely to stand up to legal scrutiny, which is the order that basically restricts the granting of visas to people who want to come to this country with the intent to overstay their visas and have children here. That grants some authority to the Secretaries of Homeland Security and State to restrict who visas are given to in the first instance. It's that second order that we're really going to see some court scrutiny about. And that's because there are very limited exceptions to who has birthright citizenship in this country. Almost everyone born in the country is considered a citizen, but there are a handful of exceptions. And through this executive order, you can see the Trump administration trying to stretch some of those exceptions as well as create others, particularly with respect to this practice that they call birth tourism.
Okay, so let's dive a little bit deeper there, Corey, because the push is a big pillar of the plans, and I want to get your reaction to something that White House Staff Secretary Will Scharf said. Listen to that.
We look very heavily at denying visas. this list that President Trump seemingly wants, right? I kind of want to know also who would be on this list, but what I would do with that list as a reporter, what you would do with that list as a reporter, what the American people would do with that list of their representatives who voted for the quote-unquote Save America Act would be different than what Donald Trump wants it for.
Well, yes, whoever votes for that bill is voting for a pretty blatantly bad bill that would suppress votes. And we're here in August, September, October, 3 months before the midterms. The president's popularity is in the toilet. Republicans are full on in re-election mode. They are very focused on appealing to voters, talking about affordability, talking about the economy, the things that regular people want to talk about and feel every day. And Trump is in the toilet with his ratings and talking about making, 3 a.m. rants on social media about an individual senator he may not like. He is driving us further into an unending war. He's doing all these things that are extremely unpopular as gas prices go up, yada, yada. So, of course, he's like, oh, well, if people are going to, we got to protect the elections in November because widespread voter fraud, I guess. Right. But that's the same thing. This is just another continuation of what happened in 2020. It's just unfounded claims of widespread voter fraud. And in this case, it's this idea that people who are not citizens are going to be rushing to the polls to vote and that this bill will prevent that from happening. But the reality is it's already illegal for people to vote if you're not a citizen. So this bill claims to fix a problem that is not happening.
Yeah, I would go even further than 2020. In 2016, Rick, when he lost to Ted Cruz in the Iowa caucus, he said it was because of some kind of voter fraud. In 2016, he said that in California, the numbers had to be fake because he lost the 3 million votes there. When you are thinking of kind of how this election is going to play out, I have always had the question, I think a lot of us reporters have had the question of why the president doesn't seem more concerned about the outcome of the election. Why doesn't he seem to be doing the things that we know presidents would do if they were trying to staunch the bleeding of supporters around the country, whether that be independents or independent-leaning Republicans or MAGA Republicans. And the Save America Act feels like that's the answer. It feels like he wants to, in some way, shape, or form, shenanigan within this election in 2026.
Eugene, I think that's a really good point. This is, I think, a setup for watching a Democratic wave hit the country this fall, failing completely to address affordability. He thinks it's a joke and a fraud, all that stuff. But I also think he's setting it up for the fall to say, Mike Johnson, don't seat these newly elected Democrats. It's all a fraud. I think he's looking to do something to raise that level of chaos and uncertainty and to give Republicans in the fall, after the election is over, something to cling to try, as you said, a shenanigan here to deny the Democrats a victory this fall.
It's Friday, 7 August in the year of our Lord, 2026, with everything going on. Todd Blanche now is going to be confirmed and hopefully sworn in ASAP and get to work. I want to make sure that we prioritize some of the most important things that are going on a Friday as a wrap-up. The show tomorrow is going to be absolutely insane, as is today's show. I want to continue on because I got a tremendous amount of feedback. Ambassador Morse Tan, joins us now from South Korea. Sir, I just want to go back over. You're actually facing which was kind of a little bit confusing, and it's on my shoulders why it was. The audience didn't fully understand that one of the reasons that they're saying you're being held, that you were one of the most important, I think, ambassadors we had in President Trump's first term. And you've been there for the South Korean people. And as you know, in the war room, I essentially lived in South Korea virtually on and off for a couple of years. I had a lot of businesses there and just have, given my experience in the military and then later, think so highly of the South Korean people. And they're such a great ally and most importantly, such an important ally in this war against the Chinese Communist Party that they have initiated on us. I don't think people fully realize that the CCP aligned government in South Korea has you up on criminal charges. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. So that can entail extensive jail time. It can entail a high fine. It can entail the removing of various rights and privileges. So those are the potential stakes of the really illegitimate lawfare that is happening, because it is wrong jurisdictionally, it's wrong procedurally, and it's wrong substantively. It's wrong jurisdictionally because this has no place being, this should not be in a South Korean court at all. For a U.S. citizen to make a statement.
Hang on. Before we go into all that, into the details, I just want to remind people, because we were at the war room shoulder to shoulder with you. Before we get to the procedure and why it's wrong, what exactly, because we had you on the show all the time during this all important, the situation with the prior government and going to martial law and then being reversed. It was a very confusing situation. It was an intense campaign. We had you on all the time. We had other, Nina Kim and others, Grace, so many other people. Charlie Kirk went over there later. What exactly happened? Because we had you on all the time. What are they saying you specifically did, and in what time frame? Because I think that would help people think through how crazy this is. So what are they talking about?
So in June of 2025, I was with the rest of the election monitoring team, a number of wonderful people from the US. You know them, Brad Thayer, John Mills, Grant Newsham. And we were sharing about what we found as an election monitoring team in South Korea. And in the Q&A time, there was a question that was asked. And in response to that question, I had stated that it is reported that, and then I mentioned alleged crimes that have reportedly been committed by the person who has fraudulently seized the presidential office. And so for a US citizen to speak on US soil, that is squarely protected by the US Constitution's First Amendment. And it's right at the center of it, because political speech is at the core of free speech, and political speech about a public political figure is right in the dead center of what is protected by the US Constitution. So how is it then that this is being prosecuted?
Hang on for a second. I just want to make sure we're very specific about this. I remember some of the great contributors, Dr. Thayer, who's just coming out with a new book on our 100-year war against communism, right? On that, in June of 2025, on the election monitoring, podcast, and we'd have you guys on, and you were doing streaming, you answered a question, and you were in the United States, correct, when you answered the question?
That's correct.
You answered the question, and this is why now when you visited Korea, they're not like you. They accused you, they charged you with a crime after you got to Korea, sir?
Yes. What's also ironic about it is that they at first said there's no jurisdiction here because this was a U.S. citizen speaking on U.S. soil. But then they decide to reverse course after I came into the country this most recent time. And so then the police travel banned me, and then the prosecutors travel banned me, and then I was given a third travel ban that runs through August 15th. I just found out today that the court has not allowed me to leave tomorrow. I had a ticket, and now I'm trying to rearrange that. And so these judges are not even giving me due process by giving me notice of things. They're rejecting these appeals for stays on the travel ban, meaning to let me go. And they're rejecting those on the day when my flight is scheduled. And they're doing it around the time of my flight. And so they have failed to let me know about all sorts of major things. Sometimes I hear through the news what is happening in my case because they're not letting me know. Notice is a central part of due process, and they're failing to follow that.
Ambassador Morse Tan, this is one of the most outrageous things we've ever encountered in the war, and we've encountered a lot of outrageous things. A patriot and hero, Ambassador Morse Tan, next in the war room.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back. Ambassador Tan is still in South Korea. Given what you just laid out, Ambassador, go back to how this is so wrong. I mean, the audience is shocked. It was shocked yesterday. Now that we've clarified it even more, people remember. I mean, the Warren Posse was essentially your audience, plus obviously people in South Korea, the election monitoring. And you had some of the, John Mills is in the State Department today. Bradley Thayer is coming out with a huge book in the middle of August on the 100-year war against communism. And a part of this book is about the CCP-affiliated government, current government, in the election issues that took place in South Korea. So how did they charge you? And what did they charge you with? And then what is your defense? And how can we be of assistance to make sure that you are allowed to return to the United States and these charges are dropped, sir?
Yeah, they have a category that doesn't even exist in the United States, criminal defamation. Defamation is not a criminal charge in the United States. And that is what they are charging me with. And I have 3 excellent attorneys. We are preparing for day 1 of trial, which is September 11th of all days. If you look under Korean law at the time when the statements were made, if the statement was true or believed to be true and in the public interest, then it is protected. It is also protected constitutionally in the South Korean Constitution. Furthermore, South Korea has ratified the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, Article 19 of which protects free speech and free expression. And so whether it's under the US Constitution, whether it's under the Korean Constitution, or whether it's under this treaty that South Korea has ratified, there's no way that this should be deemed a meritorious case at all. It shouldn't even be in a South Korean court in the first place. If you imagine that someone in the US decided to say something about Macron that Macron did not like, and the person decides to visit Normandy to think about D-Day and what happened there, and then they are hauled into a court in France, and they are not allowed to leave France because of the statement that they made about Macron back in the United States. That's an analogy of what's going on here.
So walk me go once again, give me all your defenses about this. You talk about procedural, just walk through the official defenses for this thing, because obviously somebody in the State Department's got to get engaged on this, because it's outrageous. We have an ambassador that was so prominent in the first term, now under basically house arrest in South Korea. So walk us through it.
There's no jurisdiction by the court. That due process has been violated by not giving me notice, and that it is protected by free speech law, whether Korean, American, or international. And furthermore, we have ways of getting at the truth of the allegations as well. And so we have material, we have documentary, we have circumstantial and other evidence in regards to the allegations of what had happened.
Ambassador, the situation continues to deteriorate in the South China Sea, around the Philippines and the Straits of Taiwan. With Taiwan, the Chinese military are not simply going through exercises, they're going through practice right now with a potential military assault onto Taiwan. I don't think you can look at it any other way. What are your thoughts of that, and particularly how Korea plays into that, South Korea, and what's going on with this current government? Can we count on, because I think some people in Washington are oblivious to this. Can people really going to be able to count on South Korea as the great ally it's always been, particularly in East Asia and around the South China Sea, sir?
Well, the fake president of Korea has explicitly said that a cross-strait invasion of Taiwan, what does that have to do with us? And he also said, in response to somebody asking him again about this, he said, I will answer that question about what I would do about an invasion of Taiwan after aliens have invaded Earth. And so he has no commitment to do so and has stated such. And this is also the first time in the history of the Korean-American alliance where the U.S. is fighting a war, and the South Koreans are not right there with the Americans. And that is what is happening in the Iran war right now. This president has not only failed to help America in this fight, which is the first time in the history of the alliance, he is affirmatively sending money to the Iranians, in fact. And he is also accusing the Israelis of committing a Holocaust.
Hold it. How is he sending money to the Iranians?
He is doing it in the name of humanitarian aid and sending it over. And this is in lieu of actually sending military help to America, for America, in fighting alongside America. Every single war prior to this that America has fought, the South Koreans were fighting alongside American forces. And under this fake president as well, you had a joint military exercise that was supposed to be between the US, Japan, and South Korea. For the first time, as far as I'm aware, South Korea did not participate. And when the Chinese communists were building structures in the sea west of South Korea, rather than objecting to what the CCP is doing there, instead, this regime was complaining that the U.S. did not like that and was complaining to the U.S. along these lines. And furthermore, they are arming the soldiers at the DMZ with batons. They are telling them if they are fired upon, they need to write a report and not return fire. And can you just imagine, we are writing a report now. We are under fire. Our soldiers are dying left and right, and we are writing this report, and our soldiers are not allowed to fire back. This is ludicrous. They have destroyed counterintelligence, both in the National Intelligence Service, NIS, as well as the Defense Counterintelligence Command. This regime has dismantled the drone command, has replaced all the flag officers, and even down through the colonels as well, all in one fell swoop. This is a regime that is destroying the alliance and destroying the preparedness of Korea to do the very sort of thing that you were describing, whether it would be to come to the defense of Taiwan or the Philippines or Japan for that matter. These are things that this regime is not prepared to do, and in fact is continuously opening up the country to a takeover from North Korea as well. This is all the reality of what is happening in South Korea under this fake illegitimate regime.
Some of the greatest patriots we have in our country in America are the South Koreans, South Korean Americans. Where do you think the Korean community in the United States are where do they stand on this, particularly this issue with this CCP-aligned government now in power in Seoul?
Yeah, the Korean American community is not even as united as the Koreans in South Korea, because the Koreans in South Korea are, like around 90% of the Koreans in South Korea consider the U.S. to be the most important ally. You may have approximately a 2/3 to 1/3 liberal conservative split amongst Korean Americans. And so there are those who are applauding this regime, and there are those who are just ignorant and don't know what's going on. And then you have a conservative contingent that cares deeply about this, a bunch of whom are flying into Korea to try to help fight against this, joining the protests going on in the Olympic Park and other places. And so that is a rough breakdown of how things look.
And let me ask you, why on the last weekend of his life Charlie Kirk, who was so, about to go on this huge tour and had so many pressures on him, was doing so many things, was at the White House. Why did he choose to go to, because it's a 12 or 14-hour flight. I mean, having done it so many times, you're so tired with jet lag. Grace and Mo went with him, but he went over for part of it was spiritual. The other was kind of practical, political. Why would Charlie Kirk think it was so important? I tell you what, I want this answer on the other side, Ambassador, because I know our audience are huge supporters of Charlie Kirk. Ambassador Morse H is with us. The ambassador is under essentially house arrest in Korea. He's been charged with crimes just for questioning some of the issues that we did here in the War Room, and of course, the election integrity monitoring, the election monitoring group that they had, which had Colonel John Mills on it, Dr. Bradley Thayer, Colonel Grant Newsham, some of the standards or the stalwarts of the War Room, including Colonel Mills, is now in the government, actually in the State Department. So it's outrageous what they're trying to do with Ambassador Tan. We'll get back to his answer. Also, a fire breather. Today on CNN, they talked about the issues of MAGA, maybe particularly non-college graduates losing confidence in the MAGA movement. We're going to have a guy from Connecticut that I think is going to set you right on that, a real warrior, and he's running for Congress in Connecticut 5. We're going to take a short commercial break. Birch Gold, now more than ever. Get the end of the dollar empire. Immerse yourself. You understand the fluctuations, why gold moves, the reason it moves, why it's been a hedge for 5,000 years of mankind's history. Birchgold.com/Bannon, end of the dollar empire. Philip Patrick's going to be with us tomorrow. You do not want to miss that, but you can make direct contact with him. Birchgold.com/Bannon. Check it out today. Short break. Back in a moment.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, My Patriot Supply. And if Denver, if you put up the website, we have preparewithbannon.com. They've done a special landing page just for the War Room Posse because they're going to put up all kind of specials up there that they're not showing anybody else. Here, you've got their legendary 4-week emergency food kit. They discount the one 25%. If you buy a second, it's buy one at 25% off, buy a second at 50% off. Let me repeat that. Their legendary 4-week emergency food kit. You go to preparewithbannon.com. You get 25% off the first, 50% off the second. One-time good deal. And they've set up a special landing page just for the War Room Posse, preparewithbannon.com. We love it. It's full of information, other specials, all of it. That's My Patriot Supply, who are the axe in the space. They kind of created the preparation industry. Now I call it the common sense business. So go check it out today. My Patriot Supply. Preparewithbannon.com. Do it. Ambassador Morse H, why did Charlie Kirk spend the last weekend of his life taking a long flight over, spending time with South Koreans, both on the spiritual side and the political side through Turning Point? Why did he do that, sir?
Charlie Kirk wanted to be remembered most for his faith in God and standing for that and speaking out truth in defense of his faith in the Lord. And when you have a country like South Korea, which together with the United States are the top 2 missionary sending countries in the world, when you have a country like South Korea where 6 out of the 10 largest Christian churches in the world are in South Korea, when you have a country like South Korea that is the highest educated, most educated populace in the world. It has the most bandwidth per person in the world. And yet there are all these battles that are going on politically and otherwise that I think Charlie wanted to address. And I actually listened to and watched all of his speeches prior to his assassination. And so I think it's about the Great Commission. I think it's about helping the ally that resembles the United States the most in terms of the systems, in terms of the way the people think, the culture, not to mention just the love that the Korean people and Korean people have for America and for Americans. And so he was very warmly received. And I think the people who were listening to him found him very inspiring. He was encouraging people to also get married and have families, which is something that has gone down a lot in South Korea, sadly. And he addressed that issue as well. But I think it's about finishing the Great Commission of our Lord Jesus Christ. I think it's about keeping this close blood ally from falling into these communizing hands that are currently wielding power in really overwhelming sorts of ways. And so Charlie really made a mark on his last international trip by coming to South Korea, so much so that after his death, you had young people marching through the streets of Korea chanting, "We are Charlie Kirk." And that was something that was really powerful to see, how they were so inspired by him and so encouraged by him and so challenged by what he had to share, that they just identified with him so much that they said, "We are Charlie Kirk."
Ambassador, one more time quickly. The second, greatest people that send missionaries out throughout the world are the South Koreans. Am I correct in that?
That's right. U.S. is number one, South Korea is number two. And it was American evangelical Christian missionaries that really pioneered Christianity into Korea in the late 1800s. Korea was unreached with the gospel of Jesus Christ until the late 1800s. And it was American missionaries that really pioneered it, started schools, started hospitals, did all sorts of things to bless the country. And for a country to become that Christian in such a short amount of time is, if not unprecedented, practically unprecedented in all of Christian history. And that too was very much tied in with the United States of America and the U.S. missionaries who came. I've studied that pioneer missionary period. It's greatly inspiring. I would encourage others to look at it as well. And it's a great chapter in the history of missions that has emerged out from the United States, and in this case, into Korea.
Ambassador Tan, where do we go right now to find out more about your situation and social media? People want to get very involved in this. Where do they go, sir?
Yes, on X, which is very active along these lines, with all sorts of Korean patriots involved in posting things at Morse H Tan. And then also on Truth Social and Facebook. Morse Tan is what I go under on Facebook. I have a very small Instagram presence so far, just started. Those are the 4 platforms that I've engaged with.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. We'll look forward to having you back. And your fight is our fight. Fishback's running for governor of Florida, and I asked him this question today after showing this tape. We have a individual that is a fighter and is running up in Connecticut, tough territory for a House seat. Let's go and play this clip. I want him to respond to it.
And chief data analyst Harry Etten. So what's going on here?
What is going on, Mr. Berman? What's going on is simple. Is the MAGA movement was built among the working class, non-college Americans. And take a look at this trend line that we're looking at in the data. Here we go. Okay, net favorability rating, the MAGA movement, non-college adults. Back in October of 2024, look at that. On the plus side of the ledger, positive, plus 6 points. Down we go into the Atlantic Ocean now. Look at this movement. Now minus 22 points. That is a shift, Johnny B, of 28 points away from the MAGA movement, away with non-college Americans. So the bottom line is the group at which the Trump movement was built upon, they are shifting away and saying, we don't like MAGA anymore.
Same question, same poll here. This is really interesting.
Let me have it. Jonathan DeBarros, you're running up in Connecticut 5 in a very tough primary. You're working class. Talk to me about it. What are you finding out? Is the working class moving away from the MAGA movement? And if so, what are you doing about it, sir?
I think that's a fallacy. And I think that's the propaganda spread by the left. And that's the main reason why the radical left assassinated Charlie Kirk, because they wanted to get away from the midterms. They knew that he had a big influence on the college campuses, and they wanted to make sure that his message didn't resonate this midterm. So what I'm doing is I'm energizing the base. I flew out to Turning Point USA to AmFest, and I saw you on stage as well. And Charlie Kirk is alive and well in the hearts and minds of countless young leaders throughout our nation. And
Jonathan, hang on. What do you mean about that? What do you mean that Charlie Kirk is alive and well? Because I cut off that clip, but they said, hey, among young people, non-college educated young people, you're seeing a big shift, and among college educated people away from MAGA. So what do you mean as you go out, because you're a retail politician, right? You don't have the money to go up on TV and all the traditional things. You're doing this the MAGA way. What do you see? What's the feedback you're hearing from people? How can you make the case that Charlie Kirk and his mission and what he stood for is alive and well?
Everybody that I'm speaking to from urban communities and rural communities, these young kids are actually they've registered as Republicans, and they're excited about my campaign. And I'm a firm advocate of everything that Charlie Kirk stood for. That's why I have a groundswell of support on the grassroots level, because I'm pushing back against the establishment. And Charlie Kirk's Black Leadership Summits, going across college campuses around the world, speaking to Black Americans, letting them know that the biggest threat to our community was the absentee father. You take the father out of the household, is gonna reduce the economic power within inside our communities, and that's exactly what the left wants to do. And
hang on a second, Jonathan. Hang on. Haven't you, the left, the MSNBC and the New York Times and the Guardian and all these left-wing sites say guys like you're like my brother Royce White. They've just said you've just thrown in with a bunch of white working class races because it's economically beneficial to you. What's your response to that?
I mean, that's a fallacy, and we know it. President Trump got in his first term, I believe he got about 8% of the Black vote, and then 12% in 2020, and then even after George Floyd and all the George Soros paid protests, President Trump's popularity in the Black community doubled in 2024. And as the left moves further left, Black men are rising up, and we're standing up together with MAGA. Trust me. Look at Flip Philly Red, Flip Chicago Red. These urban communities are gravitating more and more towards MAGA because the left is pushing this transgender ideology and indoctrinating their kids. I mean, 75% of the kids in the largest city in my district, which is the city of Waterbury, are graduating reading below their grade level. Johanna Hayes, my Democratic incumbent, who's a Black American woman who comes from the same city as me, which is Waterbury, Connecticut. The Black community are excited about voting for me because she doesn't do anything for them. And she got Teacher of the Year from her school right before she became Congresswoman. And the year that she became Teacher of the Year, 22% of the kids were only reading proficiently. 6% were proficient in arithmetic. All the rest couldn't read and write on their grade level. And she became National Teacher of the Year when Obama was in office because her handler, who is Senator Christopher Murphy, groomed her for that position and took advantage of the photo op that Obama had while he was in the White House. We know that's a fallacy in our community.
Jonathan,
she hasn't done that.
Your message is so powerful and so strong. Why is your biggest pushback right now not even the Democrats, it's the Rhino Republicans? Why is it the Country Club Republicans and the Rhino Republicans in Connecticut? What do they find so threatening about you?
The unification of Black men and white men coming together, energizing the working class to push back against the uniparty. I call them Democrats masquerading as Republicans. That's what a Rhino is, Republican in name only. Those are the racists. So when Black Americans ask me, aren't there the Republicans racist? I said, no, the Democrats are racist. Look at their policies. And any Rhino that's in my way, they're in my way because they don't want me to liberate Black people. I mean, since the Bacon's Rebellion, I mean, that was the first time they came up with the concept of a white man anyway, because they feared when indentured servants, white slaves and black slaves came together, it scared the hell out of the British Empire, and they had to find a way to keep us divided with a caste system. And that's what I'm pushing back against here in Connecticut. That same psychological oppression, self-imposed oppression that the Democrats are putting on the black community, telling black people that they're not smart enough to get an ID. They're not smart enough to be self-sufficient. They're not psychologically capable to exercise the Second Amendment right to bear arms responsibly.
Jonathan, hang on for 1 second. I will hold through the break. A patriot and hero running in Connecticut 5 in a very tough Republican primary, bringing the torch of MAGA to Connecticut. Short commercial break. Back in a moment.
We rejoice when there's no more. Let's take down the CCP.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, we'll make sure that My Patriot Supply, this is not going to last forever, this offer. Preparewithbannon.com. You buy, this is their legendary 4-week emergency food kit. You buy one, you get 25% off. You buy two, you get 50% off the second. Preparewithbannon.com. Hit that over the weekend, tonight or over the weekend. Immerse yourself in details. You can talk to their customer reps. It's the best company out there. Immerse yourself in information. It's a one-time good deal. Take care that you spend some time looking at the great folks at My Patriot Supply. Jonathan DeBarros, August 11th, we're up on this primary. I'm going to give you a minute to make the case to folks why you're the best candidate to represent the Republican Party in what could be a very important swing district, sir.
My Cook Partisan Index rating is a D+3. It's a swing district. The only way that you could win this seat, you got to aggressively campaign against the Democrats on their own turf. You need about 40% of the urban vote split between 4 cities. I have overwhelming support in the cities and in the rural areas. I'm bringing everybody together. I'm unifying a united front. I'm a firm supporter of America First policies. And if I get elected in November, which I will, is going to energize our base to prepare us to back our presidential ticket in 2028. And I'm going to unify the entire country, and we're going to come together and we're going to fight back against the communists in America and take back our country and give President Trump and everybody else down the line the support that they need to keep our constitutional republic free and safe.
Real quickly, Jonathan, are you finding that America First MAGA message, is it resonating in the minority community? Are you finding that?
Absolutely, especially when we got 15 to 20 million illegals that the Democrats put before black people who fought in the American Revolution and in the Civil War and every war that you could think of to defend this land with their blood, sweat, and tears. Absolutely.
Jonathan, where do people go right now to your website to find more information about you? If they want to donate, they got an option. If they want to volunteer, they got an option. Where do they go right now?
DeBarrosforcongress.org. Go on my website, all my social media links. I'm on all social media platforms. The links are below. The contribution links from WinRed and Antidote are all listed on my website. Thank you for your time. God bless America. Thank you.
We look forward to following this closely through August 11th. Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you, sir.
That man right there is a warrior. That's a fighter. Has the fighting spirit. Laura Logan, though, she had him on for a great interview. If you want to see it, I'll make sure Grace and Mo and Elizabeth put a link to that. Very special individual. Make sure you go to the site. Check it out. Another special individual, Trevor Comstock, a young man that founded a company on the principles that, hey, we're doing it the American way. I don't care if I make less money in doing it. We're going to do it. And it's been amazing success. And like you said, it said, hey, Steve, we're going to make it up in revenue. Don't worry about the operating profit. We're going to make enough money. And guess what? At the end of the day, it ain't all about money. Trevor Comstock, the floor is yours, sir. What do you got for us today?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Steve. Today I wanted to touch on one of our newer products, which is our organic beetroot. The reviews I was looking through today have been just awesome in regards to people letting us know how much it's improved their blood pressure, as well as raising their energy levels. So for anyone that doesn't know, this is a formula designed to support heart health, healthy circulation, as well as overall cardiovascular wellness. And what's great about the organic beetroot is that it is rich in naturally occurring nitrates that help support nitric oxide production in the body. And nitric oxide just plays an important role in helping to support healthy blood flow and circulation, which is essential for overall heart health. And then within the formula, we also included the grapeseed extract, which provides antioxidant support and helps support healthy blood vessel function and cardiovascular wellness. So what I love most about the product is that it's definitely not loaded with like stimulants or anything artificial. And it's really just focused on supporting your heart and circulation at the foundational level, so you can support your overall wellness long term. So overall, it's just an amazing product to support your heart health, healthy blood flow, circulation, and like I mentioned, the cardiovascular wellness. And it's a product designed specifically for that. And I know a lot of people that have been taking it have seen, great results with their blood pressure, when they get their lab results back, as well as just their overall energy. So I encourage people to sift through the reviews, check those out, and see if it, makes sense for you. But I love this product. I take it every day as well, and I always feel great on it.
Trevor, one of the things I get back from the War and Posse is how much they love the products, and the reviews show that. I want to make sure people over the weekend have an opportunity to go to the site, look at the information about the products, particularly read the reviews, and if necessary, to contact you, because the feedback I've gotten from folks that made contact with you say, hey, they make it all clear. It's very accessible, a lot of clarity, a lot of understanding, and then they love the products. And a lot of them don't even know. They said, hey, we are adamantly America first. We're going to make less money on every product we sell because we're going to make it here. We're going to check here. Why? Because we want the quality control that you only have by making it here in America with Americans. So where do people go to get all this information, sir?
Yeah, 100%. So you can go to sacredhumanhealth.com, or you can always type in Sacred Human to Google. And then for the War Room specifically, you can always use code WARROOM for 10% off any one-time order. If you do subscribe to any of our products, you can cancel at any time, but you get 10% off on every order as well. So that's always an option if you think it's a good fit for you.
Trevor, thank you. And thank you for running the company with such discipline. It's pretty amazing. Trevor Comstock, Sacred Human Health. Go check it out. The reviews will blow you away on a product-by-product basis. So make sure immerse yourself in the information, and you got direct access to Trevor. This is one that, with our sponsors, we make sure that you have to have contact with the senior people running the company. That is the important thing, and that's why you become customers for life. Pretty simple. Birch Gold. Take your phone out, Bannon 989898. No obligation, totally free, all the information. And they've got, guides on how you invest. They have all types of information on the website. You get to talk to Philip Patrick. Philip will be with me tomorrow morning. The show is going to blow your mind. So excited. As you know, Saturday's my favorite show of the week. Reminds me when I was a kid, working with my dad on Saturday mornings. So great. Okay, Ben Harnwell's from Rome. Don't want to miss this. I am back at 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time tomorrow morning. We'll be back in the worm. Stick around for Ben from Rome. See you.